Hello, I'm Jeff Cavins, and today we're looking at the readings for the second Sunday of Lent. The gospel reading comes from Matthew chapter 17, very popular reading. It's the Transfiguration, one of only two times where we hear the voice of the Father speak to Jesus. The other was earlier in the liturgical year when we experienced the baptism of Jesus in Matthew chapter 3. One of the keys to understanding the Gospels, one of the keys to reading and getting the most out of the Gospels, is understanding that the life of Jesus is, as Pope Benedict called, a recapitulation of the Old Testament. In other words, what happened in the Old Testament happens again, but in the life of Jesus. And the astute reader will be careful to look for repetition. Those things that happen in the old are happening again. And this is one of those readings where we see a recapitulation, and that is of Moses going up to Mount Sinai and receiving the law and beginning to lead this, tremendous exodus into a new life. And so at the Transfiguration in chapter 17, it says, after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John, his brother, and led them up a high mountain apart. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his garments became white as light. And behold, there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking to him. And then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord," this is the understatement of the century, by the way, "it is well that we are here. If you wish, I will make 3 booths here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." Now, if you don't know the Old Testament and you don't know about Moses and the first Exodus, this can seem a little bit strange. Why would Peter suggest that they build 3 booths? Years ago, before I really understood the Old Testament, I thought, well, he's kind of talking about a memorial. This is really great that we're here with Moses and Elijah. Jesus is transfigured, and Peter, James, and John are here. This is great. We need something to commemorate this event. Not that at all. What we're finding here is that Peter wants to build 3 booths. 3 booths harken back to the Old Testament when the children of Israel came out of Exodus. We know that Moses went up on Mount Sinai as part of the Exodus, and he shone with the glory of God, and all he saw was the backside of God. But the glory of God, the Shekinah glory of God, the presence of God, remained on Moses. And here we see Jesus going up on a mount, and he is transfigured. And we got the 3 booths. When Israel came out of bondage, they celebrated the Feast of Tabernacles. And every year after that, they would celebrate the feast. And to celebrate it, they would build small booths called sukkahs, or Sukkot, as a holiday. And that would commemorate their journey in the wilderness out of Egypt, out of bondage. And so Peter is catching on that this transfiguration is commemorating the first exodus from Egypt. Now, in the second exodus that we're talking about here at the Transfiguration, we're talking about a different freedom, a different exodus. But how do we know that Jesus is talking about an exodus up on the Mount of Transfiguration? Well, if we read the Gospel of Luke chapter 9, we actually get the content of their discussion up there on the mountain. Jesus was discussing his exodus, which would begin at Jerusalem. In other words, the Passion. And this exodus would not be from Egypt, it would not be from the Romans, it would not be from the Greeks, but it would be from the bondage of sin. Now, Moses and Elijah are up on top of the mount, and that really represents the law and the prophets, and Jesus is the fulfillment of all of this. But what about us? Do we ever experience a transfiguration in our life? We do. Every time we go to Mass, we, in a sense, ascend. We ascend up to the temple of the Lord, and what do we experience? The real presence of Christ. You see, every Mass we go up and we see Jesus for who he is in his glory, the Eucharist. And not only do we see him, but we consume him. He comes into our life and he gives us grace. He gives us strength and direction for our life. Then after Mass, we go into the world to love and serve the Lord. In a sense, we go back down from the mountain. We go back into everyday life, into the trenches, and we live this transfiguration life that we saw, that we experienced in Mass. And so Jesus is leading the new exodus, which is from bondage of sin. When we go to Mass, It is a healing event. It is a freeing event. And so in the weeks following this reading, just be aware you're on the Mount and you are seeing the real Jesus.